think anti-Semitism after October 7th just immediately began to skyrocket. It didn't really take more than 5 minutes. And we started seeing what I would call them not even protests, almost at the level of hate marches on our streets. And it was instantaneous right away. And the country's extremely radicalized, which we may get into later, but that's the reason.
You do security. It's your livelihood. You protect me when I'm on the ground in Canada twofold. How have you seen the situation worsen and how quickly? And why does someone like me need security in a country like Canada?
I mean, the biggest reason is, and the broadest reason is because they want to silence any voices that speak out against them. We've seen, like Revi said, anti-Semitism went through the roof October 8th, literally. They were handing out sweets in part of the city the day of October 7th and the day after October 7th. They were handing sweets out in the streets of Toronto. And they were celebrating the attacks in Israel. One of the worst days since the Holocaust we've ever experienced, and they were handing out candy. So it gives you a little bit of insight into their mindset. It is a pretty radicalized country, and it used to be where they would have rallies and, they would be confronted by a group of pro-Israel supporters, and it would be that. They would scream at each other and everybody would go home. Now it's gotten to a point where they are actively trying to silence people. And the government has allowed all of the wrong people into the country, unvetted. It's been reported that we've got almost 500 members of Hamas in the country currently. And so it can only get worse from here. When you come into the country, I know that there are threats against you and they want to silence you. And of course, we take every measure possible to ensure your safety and always will. And we'll never let them gain access ever to you. And unfortunately, it's just something we have to do. And my job consists of usually, as you know, crowd control and ensuring that the crowds are, maintained properly. And everybody that wants to gain access, does it in an orderly manner. Now that's shifted to making sure that you're not being attacked and people like Erin Molan aren't being attacked. And it's just a sad state of affairs. It really is. And it's going to get worse. I can feel it coming.
Our country is very weak on extremism and radicalization. A terrorist organization gets listed as a terrorist entity and they pay no price for it. And they use propaganda that is coming from terrorist organizations across the globe. And they use that propaganda to radicalize our youth here at home, be it at universities, out on the streets, at teach-ins, all over the place. And there's no consequences for it at all. The government they've taken no stance on it. They've done absolutely nothing. And so if you're not going to punish the people that are radicalizing your children, then terrorism and radicalization is just free.
I want to focus on government and as we know, any organization, the culture is set at the top down, and under Trudeau initially, and now Carney. I'm trying to think of a weaker government, and Starmer and Macron come to mind. But how has government, and I'll start with you, Erin, failed your people so seriously in this space?
I mean, the federal government has failed miserably. From Trudeau on down. And honestly, we just witnessed in a lot of major cities across Canada, them hoisting the Palestinian flags. And I mean, that should tell us everything we need to know right there. We're talking about a country without borders, without a government that has zero structure in place. And our government has been tying the hands of the policing community. Law enforcement, swears an oath and they want to uphold their oath. I know many, many law enforcement officers and they're amazing people and I work with them, but their hands are tied and they're tied at the highest levels of government. They're told not to engage. And that's just a sad state of affairs because it's allowing them to get bolder and bolder. And I mean, we can name instance after instance of somebody being attacked and nothing has happened. It's just unbelievable.
When I was growing up in Canada, I grew up in Montreal and, we were also proud of our multiculturalism and we were so proud of respecting each other's cultures and backgrounds and religions and all the things. And I think there was a tipping point where we went past respecting into judging. And with this anticipation or this desire, this deep Canadian kind desire to just love everyone, we have demonized so many people. And Israel has truly become demonized in Canada, and that demonization has become normalized. And that's what causes, it's what puts a target on our back. And our government did it. Our government did it not just when they recognized Palestine with no consequence. Carney had this list of things that they were supposed to accomplish that they didn't do before he actually went in front of the UN and recognized them. It's just this constant putting a target on the backs of Jews in Canada for whatever reason, whether it's for the wokeism, whether it's for votes, whatever it is, whatever his reason is and Trudeau's reason was before him.
A recent article in the Global News suggested that, there's at least 450 individuals in Canada, some of which have Canadian citizenship, who are connected to Hamas in one way or another. And some of these individuals hold very senior positions. Others could be, lower level financiers or recruiters or what have you. But, this is a very serious problem here. And this is just Hamas, Erin. We're not even talking about Hezbollah. We're not talking about the Muslim Brotherhood. We're not talking about the hundreds of Iranian officials who have resettled here. So really, Canada has become an ATM for terrorist organizations. It's become a forward operating base for terrorist organizations and jihadists. And really, over the last number of decades, this country's been a great place for a lot of these organizations to recruit and to really use our freedoms to destroy our freedoms. And so that's what we're seeing here today. It's
almost just the perfect definition of suicidal empathy. Your leadership says, no, come in, one and all. We welcome everyone, no matter what your background. Now, that should mean if you want to come in and commit to a way of life that benefits our great nation, not also you're welcome if you want to destroy us from within, as is planned in the Muslim Brotherhood.
Yeah, 100%. It's this combination of things, right? It's the Brotherhood and their, decades-long, racially long campaign to undermine our societies. But it's also, our egregious immigration policies. It's our society not caring very much about national security for a very long time. And it's also, a generation of people being taught that, the only way that they can sort of confirm their righteousness is to admit some sort of guilt. So we're doing that to people, and we're completely neutering people's ability to think critically and to speak up about issues that matter. Having things on paper is one thing. Actually being able to do something about them is something else entirely. Going back to immigration, for instance, and this is mind-blowing, right? So we have border officers. We have very clear immigration policies and standards and protocols that need to be followed. The head of the leading immigration union just told parliamentarians that so many people are coming into Canada cross borders that they're just using an honor system and letting people come in. There's no national security screening.
Do the authorities know where these people are, i.e. the Hamas-linked people or those, with links to the Muslim Brotherhood? Are they aware of where they are? Are they even hiding, or do they not even need to go underground in Canada?
Well, first of all, they know where some of them are. The thing is, there's just too many people to track. There's just too many. And then on top of it, a lot of them don't need to hide. A lot of them are nurses. A lot of them are doctors or medical professionals. I'm working a lot with Doctors Against Racism and Anti-Semitism. My colleagues there are mortified by what they're seeing. Same thing at the Macdonald-Laurier Institute and Secure Canada. All of these organizations are looking at these things, and they're baffled because a lot of these individuals are right there in front of you. Some of them might be school teachers. Others are maybe involved with unions at various levels. Some of them, if the Brotherhood has had their way, if they've been able to achieve what they've set out to do, hold senior positions in all levels of government. So sure, some of them are hiding, but a lot of them are right there in front of you, probably interacting with you. So we're in a very, very dangerous situation right now, and Canadians need to start waking up to these things because
my final guest today is Melissa Landsman, who is the deputy leader of the opposition party in Canada. Here she is.
On the issue that you raised, and I'm with you. I also fight this every single day, and also have changed my patterns in my life with security around me, and that is because anti-Semitism in this country hasn't just risen; it's been allowed to fester. And, under this government, the warning lights have always been flashing, and they continue to choose to look the other way. And that's the same on terrorism. It's the same on a broken immigration system. It's the same on almost every issue that has squandered our potential and lowered our quality of life. And some of them are pretty serious public safety issues.
When you look at this kind of, as Dr. Gard Saad says, this suicidal empathy, you're a terrorist. No, we're so inclusive. Come in. You're part of the Muslim Brotherhood. No, don't worry about it. Come in. Why is that not extended to the Jewish people who have lived in Canada for decades and decades, contributed to an incredible way of life, and now their lives have been severely affected? Why does that suicidal empathy stop when it comes to Jews?
It's interesting. The government finds its voice on every single issue. Whether it's real, or not, or it's just platitudes, except for Jewish safety. It is the one issue where moral clarity, I think, is non-negotiable, and they've been completely missing in action. In fact, they've done more to encourage it, to placate it, to speak to the very groups that are now cosplaying as terrorists on our streets in order to buy votes. And this is a government that goes into one place and says one thing, let's say a synagogue or a Jewish community, goes into a mosque and another community says the exact opposite thing, and tries to placate both groups. There is a complexity in the way that they look at this in terms of blaming some conflict on the other side of the world, when in fact it is there in our streets. It is targeting schools with gunshots, businesses with fire bombings, communities with vandalism times 10 on the same, on the same establishments, on the same synagogues, and nobody says a thing about it in government. In fact, they egg it on, and instead of consequences, they have committees or rapporteurs or some special envoy, so that people can complain about it. It's quite shocking.
It really is. And it's the domestic impact, isn't it? I've watched from a more international perspective, your government just completely run cover for terrorists, reward essentially the actions of October 7, along with the likes of Macron and Starmer and all the other wet spinach politicians without a backbone that I talk about so often. You see the government ignore church burnings, which has happened over 100 times in our country, and the government shrugs it off. Yeah, look, I think the shift needs to happen not only in government, but everything around government. All of our institutions, our universities are poisoned with this disease. Our unions, our police forces, the institutions that used to protect the very people that are now victimized are all in peril because the government is busy appeasing the very same activists who have normalized hate in this country. We're going to fight them at every step, making sure that we, oppose the legislation that I think will victimize the very people that it's supposed to protect, as well as calling out their failures on things like immigration, on security screening, on a backwards foreign policy. And we hope that Canadians, and we are seeing Canadians wake up to this normalization of hatred in our streets, not only Jewish communities, but communities who just they pay taxes and they go out and they want to enjoy their cities, their towns, their villages right across the country. And this poison is now permeating all of those places. Is Carney, you talk about disappointment. I'd love your thoughts. I kind of thought nobody could be worse than Trudeau. And then I went, do I miss Trudeau? No, surely. I just feel like I think it was the first tweet that he put out post winning the election was something about starvation in Gaza that just had absolutely no truth to it. And he's just been so gut-wrenchingly disappointing in so many areas. Or were you expecting that from him?
So I thought he would. I certainly thought he would be worse, and I certainly think that he holds that view in a way that the last prime minister didn't. I mean, it takes reasoned steps to go further than the last prime minister, and I think his response to all of this that is happening in our streets, very very far from his life, by the way. This is not a prime minister who deals with regular Canadians. Probably not. He never did, other than the cameras. But he shrugs and he deflects and he blames tensions abroad without acknowledging the failures of his government at home. This is a government who, one day recognizes a state sponsor of terror, and the next day puts down a bill on the floor of the House of Commons that is meant to combat hate, which only serves to silence Canadians.
By their actions, almost entirely fueled by their actions. Melissa, thank you so very much for joining us. Do you have a message before I let you go for the people of Canada?
Yeah, look, to all of those watching, thank you for continuing the fight for freedom, for democracy, for the rule of law, and for Western values. You have an ally in me and many others in Canada. So don't be afraid to come here. We are going to fix it.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thanks.